So now we've got the coats of microsole on, it is quite a good idea now with a damp cotton bud. So dip it in, run off the excess, just needs to be damp, otherwise it will stick if it's dry, and then roll over the decals, quite firm, but you know, not everything sensible, and that will just help any air bubbles that are left or any raised areas. It will just help it go down and get rid of some of the creases, and then the microsole will still be working. So you had a bit of creasing around this panel here, and now it's looking pretty good there, and we just carry that on around all the other parts, working logically from one side to the other. Re-dampen the cotton bud if necessary. That's the trick to decalling, make sure everything stays fluid. Needs to be able to move. I want to get rid of friction, which can cause the breaking decals. So really starting to get into the panel lines there, it's working very nicely, these black areas for the walkways. And then we'll move over, don't forget the areas here. You do have to be careful, I was slipping there a little bit, and if you do slip on the edge like that and were to go like that, you can tear the decal quite easily, so you've just got to take everything nice and slowly. And on the roundels we'll go crossways and down, because again we've got a lot of rippling here from the way the Hurricane wing is made up. Going and concentrating on that panel there. Don't need to worry about drying it. And then we've got our areas with the writing on the side, so again, dampen again, and just running along with the grain. The pattern of the plane is running that way, so that's what we want to do. We're a little bit wet there. Just take some of the excess off, just a little bit of rubbing, and then run along and then concentrate on the G, and it's starting to push it into the details there, and the micro set will do the rest. And then obviously when we apply the next coat, it's already a long way to where we want it to be. Let's just make sure we hold the plane firmly, but obviously where you haven't put any decals, we've got any delicate parts, and we run along like that. I'm not going to go the other way on this writing because there's be a tendency to slip, and we're still leaving the fin there because I've applied one set of microsole, but because we did that afterwards there's a bit of a delay there, so we need to let that work, but we'll still do the same thing. And I think we can try this side. There we go. We want to get that. I'm having problems with this little symbol here. So we have got a bit of movement, but we've also got the microsole in process, so we want to be very careful here. We'll just dampen it. Just try tease it back to having a flat top, which is where it needs to be. It's a hexagon, I think, with 6 sides. So we want that top side to be flat. And now obviously this is the 3rd or 4th time I've caught this, so we need to learn the lesson there and not touch that for a bit. Check the other side, that's correct. I just want to get that marking with the colours there, just want to get that flattened because it's starting to raise. Try and get that part joined there, and now we're going to leave that. We'll come back to that once we've done the underside, so we're going to move over now. Again, the way I like to do things, so we start on the large decals, so we've got the 2 roundels here, very attractive ones. Show up well on the black side, I'm sure. Move those out of the way. Just let those set off there. I haven't been, because it's a small decal sheet, I haven't been using the numbers. You can tend to work out what's what, but as we get onto the stenciling, it becomes a lot more important to know what the numbers are. So we've got 4 and 5 are for the top side. So I'm going to cut those out and put them to one side, and we'll put those back on once we finish the underside. So then we've got all of these here, 2. Then we've got white versions of that for free, which is obviously on the black side, I'm guessing. 6 is being used. 7 is this part here, and then we've got a bit of writing there for number 8. So 7 again is on the upper side. I'm just looking for number 8 on our data here. So number 8 is for the top as well, so we'll get rid of those and put them on for in a bit. And separate 3. So we've got 3 white stencils there, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, so we've got 6 black, so I'm going to cut those in 3 and we'll do 3 at a time. So that makes sense there. Now I think these roundels starting to get there, we're starting to get a bit of movement, so we'll find the placement and we'll put the same process as before. So we'll wet the area, get it moving, just get it roughly in the right spot. Rid of it. Now this is the tricky bit, making sure we're not catching any of the top decals. So if we hold it like that, we know there's no decals around the cockpit, and we've also got the air intake here to hold on to. So looking back, we can count the ribs. Oh well, no, we'll use the aileron here for our spacing. Now the pitot tube goes here. I'm pretty sure I've left it off because it goes through this decal. So I'll just get the box here. So we are quite close to the aileron here, more or less in the middle. The pitot tube goes in that hole there, so we can actually probably just move away from that to stop any slight issues. If we did have to go over that, then the microsole would help that, no problem. I think that's right, and then we'll go over to the white side, and we want to see a bit more here. Again, we can count the areas of the aileron there, so if we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's in the middle of 4 and 5, so we've got 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so we're in the middle, so we're pretty much bang on there. And then sight it in by eye and make sure it looks okay. Probably a little bit closer and a little bit further over. We will get it to go around this part here because that will look quite good. That's where we are on that side. So again, using the same damp cotton bud, if we just run across, make sure it's touching the surface where we want it to be. Get rid of any excess water. Hardly any movement there, just check again, that's correct, that's right, so that's what we want, so that's fine. Now whilst we let those just dry off, I think we could probably go for the second coat of micro set on the tail here. And then we know that everything's in order. Very delicate. A bit too much there because we had a bit of a cock up. That hexagon now is started to not be such a problem. This is the one where we've been moving it on this side, so hopefully it's had time to dry. But obviously anticipating that, we're just going to dab over it. Won't rub it because that'd be asking for trouble. Because of that, there's been a little bit extra, so we just dab around there and take off the excess. So now we know that everything on the top side has had 2 coats of microsole, and it's well on its way to conforming. And looking at those roundels there, you could almost not do another coat, but we will do. Of continuity, and just checking there, just want it to settle in, so we'll just give it a bit more firmness just around the back of that panel. And now I think we're okay to go on to the stencils. I will put one coat of microset onto those larger roundels to make sure they start getting on the way of adhering quite well for the next process. They have got quite a little bump to go over there and conform to. Right, and now let's do the black stencils. So we've got 2 sets of 3 there. So we'll get those going. Now the thing with stencils is it can be a little bit different as opposed to the larger decals, in the way of they obviously don't need anywhere near the same amount of water for placement, because they're just it'll be like a puddle and they run around in it. And also the same goes for microset and so, and it's very easy to move them and also very easy to lose them, so you've got to be careful with that. So with the black ones, you almost can get away with, I'll try it here, without actually making the area wet, because there should be enough on the film here. So we've got 2 to go on the tail, so that's 1, 2. We've got another 2 here, 1 over there, and that's 5. So we're still carrying on with the stencils here, and we've got them all placed now. And what can happen is, them being so small, you can get quite a lot of water around them, so I just tend to dry the brush, so it'll pick up the excess, and then just put it near it, and it'll suck up all the extra water, leaving the decal there to dry. You do have to be careful with these decals, them being so small. There is an up and an upside, the correct way around for them. You've got a WT, and the W needs to be up in the top right hand corner. I'm just checking they're all correct. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then not forgetting the 6th one, which goes here. And now we're on to the last ones for the underside, which are difficult to see there because they're white, but they show up on the black background. Just 3 of those to place. So while they're soaking up the water, we'll just make sure we get another application of microset on these roundels, because they do have to conform, as we've said before, over these little bumps. So I want to get that process on the way. Now, if you're happy that the stencils are starting to dry enough that you're not going to move them, you can give them a little dab of microset. It's a bit early for that one I did first, but the rest of these are okay. Try not to move them, and if you do move, obviously you just realign, and you can do the same thing. If you've used too much, you just dry off the brush, dab it, and it'll take away the excess, leaving the decal where you want it. This one up here moved, but actually stayed in the correct position, so we'll just try and take that away. There we go. So then on to the placement of these. So we've got 1 down here, and 2 over this side. Just putting them down very roughly. Remember where we can hold the plane. So one just goes up here by the light that we made. And then in the far corner of the aileron, you could quite easily argue the need for all of these decals, stencils like this. I personally think they're a great addition. Not all kits come with good stencil decals, but I can see, I can certainly see the argument for why they can be a bit of a pain. Certainly the Airfix Mustang is a bit ridiculous. Some of the sizes of those stencils are beyond what I can see to actually move around, let alone see once they're on the model. But it all adds detail, which is pretty much what we're looking for. So that looks pretty good. The white shows up well there on the dark background. Just touch them with the brush to make sure they start going down. Now these stencils, like I've said, do need this micro set because you're not using so much water, and because they're so small you can find that they just sort of flake off if you don't get this on. Certainly this one here, that's why I've gone straight for it and used it, because it was not setting. And this will just help it stay on the model. Just take away the excess. Right, I think that's pretty good. Got a bit of excess there now where they've all dried in, so we will leave that for the underside. Try and remember where everything is for when you're grabbing the model. And now we've got two more bits of stencil data for the top and side. Oh no, we've got four. Well, they're only small, so it's not a problem. So we'll get all of these going with the water. That's 7 and 8, and then we've got 4 and 5. And that will bring us to an end for the decalling. So make sure, so we'll start with 7, work logically, so 7's down here. And that's going on top of another decal. So this is quite an important part of decaling. You can often get this where you've got to lay another decal on top. Now, because we've treated this up probably about 15 minutes ago, it's not going to be a problem. Applying more water and setting solution on top, and also a decal. So number 7 here goes on top of the area of writing. So we'll try and grab that one when he's ready to move, not quite. And we'll just place it, because again, you want to be aware of messing about too much when we're on top of another decal. Make sure it's upright and it just goes in that corner there. Just make sure it's where we want it. As you can see, running out of places to hold the thing. Get rid of the excess. A little bit of movement. Now these being slightly bigger stencil decals, we can afford to leave them a bit longer to dry. So now we've got number 8, which is here on the top wing. So grab that, it's a bit of writing. I wonder if I can actually make out what that says. So for the oil, so that section's where the oil is. 9 gallons of oil. And that's that there. I can see that the way I can see the carrier film so well, it's not sticking. So I want to get micro set onto those. That's again just a problem of them being slightly small. So now we've got 4 and 5, which is both on this side. So move around, so we start with 4. Again, remember where we hold it. So number 4 is information for the aerial mast, so it goes just underneath where we're going to put that one. That's been left off just like the pitot tube. I think I might have called that the PTO tube, but there we go. And leaving that off just means I would have knocked it probably 3 or 4 times by now, so I tend to put all those, they go on once the decaling's sealed. They go on for the final gloss coat so that they get weathered in with the rest of the plane. Now we've got number 5, which just goes over here on the nose. So, how far back does that go? Here. So again, trying to avoid friction, we just give it a bit of moistness so we can move it. That's starting to look the part, so we'll just make sure everything's lined up, no straight lines. And now I'll be pretty keen to get micro set working on those. Make sure we don't have too much. So there's this one here first, which was yeah, there you go. It's not even hardly touching the surface, that was. So it's good to get that on, so this will help it adhere down. This is all due just to the size of the decal. Sometimes you can get an air bubble underneath it or something like that, and it causes the problem for it to sit up and then it never actually settles down. That one's the same, whereas on a larger decal the air can escape, so it's not such an issue. So we pull that out. And just lining these decals up with whatever part of the plane it's near. So here there's a panel line, so I'm just lining it up with the panel line, which is horizontal. So we've got one, that was those, so we've got this one over here, which is the decal up on the other decal. So we're on the final run now with the decaling. We're going to apply one more coat of micro sole to everything on the upper side, remembering that below this has only had 2 coats of micro set, so we need to apply another 3 coats of micro sole. And I'll start working this with the cotton bud now, just to get it starting to go in the right direction like we did before. But I won't do that to any of the stencil data because it's going to make it lift off or move it. So again, just making sure it's a light coat. You can be a bit rougher with this coat now because it's been about half an hour since we applied the last second quick coat, as it were. Then just concentrate on the areas as well if you've still got a little bit of problems with conforming. So we're having a bit of a problem this side. Over here it's absolutely brilliant how it's gone around that panel. So just want to keep on top of that. We've got these bits down here which have gone down absolutely fine. They could have stayed how they were, but we will give it another coat. Now we've got the stencil data here, which has only had 1 coat of micro set, but that should be fine. We can overcoat it now with the micro sole for the decal behind it, and that will also start to eat into that one. We just got to be a bit careful because that's not going to be as tight to the surface as the rest of these. So we'll go up here and get no problem now with that hexagon like we've had in the past because it's had time to dry. Just work this. There's a little bit of lift on that flag there where it's running down into the panel line. Just check and make sure it's all straight. Yeah, it looks pretty good. We do have a bit of stencil data there, and as you can see I've just moved it, and that's because I went over there as rough as I have with the other parts, and obviously it's only had one coat of micro set, so that highlights the issue. And we've got the rest of the stenciling. We can probably go straight on with micro sole again, but bear in mind it has only had the one coat of micro set, so it won't be sticking to the surface very well. And then we've got the covers for the gun here, which have now taken to the contours of the wing very well. They've taken on the shape and hugged down quite well. And then we've got this. So the carrier film on these letters is quite apparent, as I thought it would be, as we've said from the start, but I'm certain that once we get a gloss coat over that, that will disappear, and then when we mat down it will all have the same finish. So now we're going to the underside and we're concentrating on these roundels, and this is their first coat of micro sole. So we'll remember that as we start to go through the process. We will just give these little bits of stenciling a dab of micro sole, and that's how everything will continue. So we won't do that on camera because we've covered it already. All of these areas now will be left to dry once they've come up to the 3 coats of micro sole, so we're just concentrating on the underside now, and we've got the stencils on the top side to do. And once that has had those coats, it will be left overnight to make sure it really takes onto the surface, and then I will be giving it a light coat of super clear gloss varnish from MRP, which I'm finding very useful at the minute. I'm really starting to enjoy this. It gives it a lovely coat, and once that's down we will weather onto it. Just a bit of light weathering. We use the Flooring Model Start Dirt Wash, which is a clay based wash. It's absolutely fine with water. It comes straight off of water. It's really good. Some washes that you can get, I've only got a filter for instance for a tank there, but this is the same sort of stuff. They're enamel based, and I don't like to use them because they can eat into the surface and it can be quite difficult to get them off. What I find with the Flooring Models wash is, again, because it's clay based, it doesn't matter how long you leave it on there for. If it's on a gloss surface, it will wipe straight off with water. So you can use a wet cotton bud or a bit of wet tissue and it will just wipe off and stay in the details, which is how you want it. And if you're unhappy with it, you can even wet the area and it will come out of there. But also, if you've got a matte surface as well, it's quite good because it bites in a little bit more, but even then you can still get it off if you're not happy with it. So that's why I like to use those. And dark dirt's pretty good for an overall panel wash. And then it'll be matted down, which again I'm using MRP for, and that's their matte varnish, which does need a good mix. Separated there a bit, but again I find that very clear, and that will dull everything down and give it the finish that we're after. So once the decals have dried, it will still be in this part. We'll gloss down, do the weathering. I'll speed up the video for that, and then wipe it off, give it a matte finish, and then we'll be ready for the final reveal.